In the day and age that we live in now, teachers and adults are having a hard time getting students, particularly adolescents, motivated to do or get into their studies. They often ask questions like, when are we ever going to use this in the real world, and how will this ever be of any importance to me? We as adults like to think that we weren't like that we were engaged in our schoolwork and always on top of each and every task, and that cannot be further from the truth. The thing is, we were a lot like that, just maybe not to the extent that students are now. We were just as undisciplined as they are. And once these adolescents grow up to be adults, chances are they will be saying the same thing, that the younger age groups are less involved and into their classes. Because of this slump, teaching the adolescent age group is harder than most people suggest. Teachers of this age group often have to be very demanding in order to get structure in the classroom. I know when I was growing up, if a teacher started listing off a bunch of commands, I would a lot of times just tune them out, and that's usually what happens with students today. The good news is that I found an article that has a good bit of suggestions for teachers on how to motivate your students. Rick Wormelli wrote this article, and it is entitled Motivating Young Adolescents. Rick states that motivation comes from within, that it's a desire to invest oneself in a topic, person, or activity. Finding out what does not motivate students and what students are interested in can help you find a good source to help motivate your students. In this article, there are 6 different approaches that do motivate students. The first approach is to adopt 2 mindsets. Middle school teachers often think that they know ways to motivate students, but in reality, they only know ways to manipulate their students. This sounds relatively harsh, but it's true. They persuade and convince students to do what they want. Motivation comes from within, not by having someone manipulate you into doing the assignments. So, the first mindset that a teacher should adopt is that motivation is something that you as a teacher can create with the students rather than something you can do to them. A teacher should create a positive, curious, and personal atmosphere in the classroom so that the students feel safe to let go and get involved. Fear of embarrassment is a huge insecurity with middle schoolers. If a student knows that the classroom is safe, they will be more likely to engage in the activity and voice their opinion in discussions. The second mindset is that there is no such thing as laziness. We as humans were born to enjoy jumping over hurdles. We get excited when we solve complex problems and don't mind working at tasks that we're good at. If a middle schooler seems lazy, it is usually because that student has something going on that we as teachers cannot see or control. These students may be geniuses, but if what they are smart in isn't what we're teaching, they will usually appear lazy and unmotivated. We need to do a better job of creating activities that cater to the students' interests so that there is little excuse for them to be uninterested or unmotivated. The second approach is to empathize and build trust. We need to make sure that students know that we have their back and that we believe in them 100%. They need to know that our sole purpose isn't to humiliate them or make them feel inadequate. The older middle schoolers often have self-esteem issues, and that affects schoolwork majorly. In the classroom, they may feel that they are just simply out of their league. A way to lower that fear is to create relationships with the students, and by showing them that risk-taking in the classroom can be safe. This can reduce their fear and increase their courage. One example would be to ask students a question aloud and allow time for discussion. If Tommy gets it incorrect, ask him to state his point of view rather than telling him that he is wrong. This is a great tactic to show all students that it is completely safe to voice their opinions. This also helps build relationships with the students, which for some students is the difference between passing and failing a test. If the child knows that we respect them and trust them, that gives them an incentive to do any of the tasks thrown at them. The third approach is to remember where they are. A teacher is responsible for creating a learning path that is relative to the student's learning stages. In order to do that, a teacher must know what level each student is on and then plan the lessons accordingly. Wormelli stressed the importance of knowing each child's learning preference and explained how to rightly do so. Teachers that pay attention to students' learning preferences incorporate social interaction with content, switch activities in 10-minute intervals, help students move past failure, teach in more than one way, show enthusiasm about each lesson, and encourage students to incorporate their own twist on assignments to create a sense of uniqueness. The fourth approach is to give descriptive feedback. Middle school students really like to know how they're doing academically. They are always asking the teacher what they made on the assignment and what they could have possibly done wrong. They also want to know so that they can compare it to other students' scores. It is vital for students to set a goal so that when they are given feedback, they can accurately see how close they are to reaching that particular goal. If a teacher gives good, descriptive, and high quality feedback, the student shouldn't have any trouble assessing how they are doing when it comes to reaching a set goal. If a student is not given much feedback, then they will not know what they did wrong. They will then be less likely to put in more effort next time because the teacher didn't value their grades enough to be straight up and tell them what they need to improve. The fifth approach is to teach the way the mind learns. It is so important that teachers know and understand how the mind works so that they can better teach the students. Lessons should involve deep concepts with eye opening activities. They should be the activities that teachers often say they do not have time to do. Integrating different subjects is one great way to get kids to thinking. It also causes them to make connections between subjects, which encourages long term memory. Wormelli believes that the solid key to learning is for students to make connections, not just to be told about them. The sixth and final approach from this article is to tell stories and spark curiosity. If a teacher is starting a lesson on reptiles, the students are likely to be only just a little engaged. But if a teacher starts a lesson by telling a story about their interaction with the reptile, the students will more likely yearn for more information about the reptile they heard about in the story. This allows the students to make a connection, therefore engaging them even further in the lesson. A teacher should try to start most lessons this way. The kids should be wondering what the teacher is going to be sharing about next. The likelihood of all of 6 of these approaches working every time is very slim. However, a few of them a teacher should find helpful and will see improvement once incorporated into your classroom. Teachers hold a big responsibility in the classroom, and that is to seek to inspire every student that they encounter, and if they do, they'll be very successful. If any of these approaches are used in the classroom, a teacher should have little to no trouble making slope and y-intercept absolutely liberating. It is time to stop complaining about the lack of motivation behind middle schoolers and just adjust the classroom atmosphere and make it happen.